Hello and welcome to today's episode of The People's Law. My name is Sarah Mupeseni and I am your host. Now on this program we explain and break down the laws in ways that help you understand what your rights and your responsibilities are. And on today's episode we are talking about human rights. We are privileged yet again today to have lawyers from the Law Association of Zambia. So join me as we welcome Counsel Twataizia Kasanda. Did I say that right?
Right.
Welcome, Counsel. How are you?
Afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, and now we also have Counsel Francis William Daka. Welcome, Counsel Francis. How are you?
I'm okay, and thank you very much. Nice to be on this program.
So I'll start with you, Counsel William. Could you please just explain to us what are human rights?
Very well. Human rights are basically entitlements that people have in terms of freedoms that people have by virtue of them being alive, them being humans. So whatever you are, when you are born, whatever entitlements that you have, those are generally deemed as human rights.
And maybe Counsel Twataizia, you can just explain to us what the categories of human rights are.
Before I go on to talk about categories, in addition to what he said, human rights are entitlements that every person is born with. And so by virtue of you being human, you have them. And the major categories of human rights are the civil and political rights. And then we have the social, economic rights. Then we have the people's rights and the determination rights. And we also have the minority rights. But the major two are the first two categories I referred to.
Okay. So are human rights in Zambia absolute, Counsel Francis?
So I think the beginning aspect will be that there are human rights that are supposed to be absolute and human rights that are supposed to have limitations. And when you talk about Zambia, generally most of the rights are not absolute because they have derogations at the end of the day. So you have things like the right to speech. Yes, you have the right and you can say whatever you want to say. You can hold an opinion, but at the end of the day, your opinion should not be able to infringe another person. So it has a limitation at the end of the day.
So the limitation there is that your rights shouldn't infringe on somebody else's rights. So now we hear statements like, oh, I know my rights. And it seems as if human rights only apply to people who know their rights. So do these rights also apply whether you're aware or unaware of them?
Whether you are aware or you're not aware, you see, like we've defined what human rights are. The moment you are born, by virtue of your being born, these rights are accrued to you. Now, one thing we need to understand about rights is that when you have a right, you have an obligation at the end of the day. So I have a right to speak, but my speech should not be hate speech. Because if I do what is called hate speech to another group, then it simply means I'm infringing on their rights. So it has those limitations.
Counsel Twataizia, what are some of the human rights that people have that they may not even realize that they have?
Person has a right to belong, which is the right of association. Mm-hmm. People may not realize it, and unconsciously people enjoy their rights much as in the same way they do not realize that they have. For instance, people belong to churches and different kind of religious groupings and social groupings. Because of that right of association, people have a right to assembly. People assemble for various reasons and in various places. Some are unaware. They think, oh, I've just gone for a meeting, but they are exercising their rights. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the rights that people have and may be unaware that they actually have that right. Mm-hmm. Even you hear people say something like maybe a person was accused. They'll say it's in our local languages and say, hey, uja at least mlandu wake unaenda musha. You have a right to access legal services. Mm-hmm. It is your right because you have a right to freedom. And how are you going to enjoy your freedom of movement if it is curtailed and you're not able to move. And imagine it is curtailed in a way. Of course, that is like my learned brother said. So rights are not absolute. The right to freedom can be curtailed when you're in prison, but if you're not, if there's no proper dispensation of justice and people look at it as a gift of some sort, it's actually your right.
So what rights are guaranteed then under the Zambian law?
In the Zambian law, we have what we call civil and political rights. That is what is guaranteed in our constitution. You will realize that the economic economic rights are not guaranteed. You can't go to court today and say that you are taking our government to court because they have not built a hospital in your area. They have not built a school in your area. They are infringing on your right to education, because much as those rights are recognized in our state, they're not justiciable. They have not been codified into law. They have not been put in some law to say, this is the law that you rely on today if you go to court and say this right has been infringed. So it's the civil and political rights that have been enshrined in our laws.
Now, Councillor Francis, coming back to you, what do we have any provisions for special rights in our laws? Rights for example, for women, for children, or for people with disabilities?
So I think the starting point is the Constitution, because the Constitution generally protects everyone. Then from there, when you talk about persons with disabilities, I think as of 2012, we had some enjoyment in terms of the Domestication of Persons with Disabilities Act, which came to just foster the welfare of persons with disability. I think that was a plus. And now I think we are just looking at implementation of most of the provisions that are there and how well they can affect us, persons with disabilities. When you talk about children, I think we have the Children's Code now that I think has brought in a lot of new things that we need to look in terms of the protection of the children, the best interest of a child, and how best can you deal with a child, especially those children who are in conflict with the law. For women, of course, we are not very specific from the CADEO Convention, but generally we have acts like the Anti-Gender-Based Violence Act. I think it has come to foster relationships, especially gender-based violence in relation to females. But of course, it does protect male as well. Then we have the Gender Equity and Equality Act also. So all these provisions, you realize that they basically foster general groups, women, children, and then persons with disabilities. So I think we are doing well. Of course, there's room to improve, but for now, I think those provisions are helping us to foster the welfare of these categories.
Okay. Well, you're watching The People's Law, and today we're discussing human rights. What are your rights and the provisions that are there in the law regarding your rights? For now, we take a short break and we'll be back. Welcome back. You are still watching The People's Law with me, Sarah Mupeseni, and today we are talking everything human rights. Now, Councillor Francis, in your opinion, how does Zambia balance human rights and national security?
All right. So when you look at our Bill of Rights, which is Part 3, it will basically align what human rights are supposed to be protected. But when you read deeper, it will basically tell you that where there's an issue to do with public interest, generally public interest will take or prevail, or have to prevail at the end of the day. So public interest will prevail over individual interest at the end of the day.
Okay. Councillor Tatwaizia? Twataizia, right? It's a tongue twister, but it's a beautiful name. Thank you. Okay, so can government or parliament pass laws that take away constitutional rights of Zambian citizens?
Those laws can be passed. The question is, can such laws stand? Because what should happen is when such laws are passed, then if, of course, that's in extreme circumstances, they may be passed, but they'll be declared null and void because We've even had precedents where it's been held by the most apex court that every law should be consistent with the Constitution. Otherwise, if it is not, it is void. It is without effect from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So such law can be declared without effect.
Okay. Now, talking about those same particular kind of laws, what are some of the most common human rights violations, in your opinion, that have been reported?
Some of them, from what I have seen, the common human rights violations are usually where there's the violation of the right to freedom of speech, movement, and assembly, as well as association. Because you see, when people come together and they're disrupted, that assembly can't go on. Meaning their freedom of association also is affected because they're not able to associate. We come together as a group, we can't assemble, meaning you have not only violated one right. And then in certain instances, such violations also result in being illegally detained. I call it illegal because people would be detained for over 48 hours without being charged in those instances. So those are some of the instances that I've had exposure to.
So, Councillor Francis, could poor health facilities or a lack of access to education be considered a human rights violation?
So since you've not said in Zambia.
In Zambia. I qualified in Zambia, Council.
Of course, generally these are supposed to be human rights at the end of the day. But when you look at in Zambia, like my little sister had mentioned, so we have rights that you can basically sue the government under, and rights that you cannot. So things like right to health, rights to education, those are the rights that were in the referendum, which basically failed. So at the end of the day, today, you cannot bring an action against a government and say, no, poor health, so I'm going to sue. However, at least as of 2019, when you look at the case of Peter Mwanza versus the Attorney General, I think the Supreme Court made one precedent that at least is very much outstanding. And the Supreme Court there was saying, look, it was helping the government. It was actually directing the government to say, one, the case was dealing with HIV AIDS accused persons, prisoners actually. And the court was saying, number one, let us deal with the health of accused persons who have conditions, HIV, AIDS, and they're in prison. And let's see how best we can decongest the prison, because these people still have other rights, even if the right of movement has been restricted. And actually, the Supreme Court said government must make adequate resources available for purposes of these things. So I think the Chief Justice, I know he's a proponent of human rights. He was basing his argument on what we deem in human rights as progressive realization. You cannot do it at once, but at least you can start enhancing the availability of rights to deal with, even if they are not justifiable, but at least government can be doing, in accordance to the available resources that they have, provide good health to its citizens, including the prisoners.
So would it be right to say then it would definitely be a violation if the resources are available?
That should be the position, because remember, if the resources are available, I think Parliament just needs to agree in terms of how much are we supposed to allocate. Remember, a prisoner does not lose his rights. The only right maybe that I could say he loses is the right to movement. But these other rights, he's supposed to have them. So you cannot take them to prison, you've restricted their movement, and they say you're not going to eat. You're not going to have good health. No. Human rights are supposed to protect these people from these other rights. Government has an obligation to actually protect and fulfill these rights, even if people are in prison.
Okay, now, Councillor Tatwaize, you had spoken about arrests and how long those should take. Now, there are other concerns that have stemmed from state actors that are considered to be violation of human rights, such as arbitrary arrests, inhuman treatment, or torture. In that regard, are those violations of human rights?
Yes, no person should be subjected to inhuman and degrading treatment. Actually, there's a case of John Banda versus the people. That one is absolute. Even in where a state of emergency has been declared in a nation, no citizen should be subjected to inhuman and degrading treatment. Even even torture. A person should not be tortured. That also is a violation of human rights, because now you're degrading them. That is inhumane. So when we look at it in that light, because it is in our constitution, it's a non-derogable right, meaning even in a state of emergency, it should not be taken away. It shouldn't be like let's say, of course, just for example's sake, not that we would want a state of emergency in our nation, no.
Yeah,
but if a state of emergency was declared in Zambia, your rights to movement can be restricted. You can have curfews, much as we have those curfews, and even the speech can be restricted. But your right not to be subjected to inhuman and degrading treatment, which includes torture, is not among those that are said to be derogable. Just like the right to life will still be there, because remember, without the right to life, we can't even be here discussing any human rights first thing. So that one is a non-derogable right, and in no circumstances should it be derogable, should it be taken away from a person.
Okay.
And just maybe to add on what my colleague is saying, generally for some of us who've been appearing before court for a bit of some time, you realize that actually there's a misconception of the time period for a person to appear before court. You will look at Section 33 of the Criminal Procedure Code. It says within 24 hours. Within 24 hours or within a reasonable time, depending on the circumstances. Now you realize that sometimes a person will be arrested while people are doing investigation. That is incorrect. So at the point you are doing an arrest, at the point you are charging a person, you would have concluded your investigation. We found situations where a case is in court and people are still investigating. So those are human rights violation at the end of the day. And you will find that, Section 33 also talks about bond. It actually talks about bond. So you have to bring this person before the court or give them bond. But you find that in the prisons, you are going to find correctional facilities, as they are called now. You are going to find a lot of people who are there with bailable offenses. Why they are there, we don't know. But of course, I think as you may be aware, mobile courts have now been set in Zambia, where now the courts are actually going into the prison to see how quickly that can be done. Like one session that was done at Mwambeshi, and I think over 20 cases were dealt with. So I think all that, it's a response from the judiciary or from the government to just see best ways of not detaining people beyond a certain period and just generally promoting the rights of these people who are innocent until proven guilty.
Well, you are still watching The People's Law, and we are discussing human rights. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back. Welcome back. You are still watching The People's Law, and today we are discussing human rights. Now, Council Twataizia, how can someone report a human rights violation? Where are they supposed to go?
Okay, so when a person's rights have been violated, so that one is broad. I would try to break it down. I hope I still answer your question the way you wanted it. Let's say a child's rights have been violated, because that's a child. The first point of call you'd advise a child to report that to would be to the adult next to them. And then if not, the police. And then when, I noticed when I said the police, when you report to, what if the ones who should protect you become the violators and so on? For the police, we have Police Public Complaints Commission. That's one of the places. And then aside from me just rushing to say, well, you look at which right, because every right has who are the duty bearers to protect this right. That's one thing that you should look at. when reporting any violation.
Mm-hmm.
So in most circumstances, let's say, and then when you go to Police Public Complaints Commission, you can also go to report human rights violations to Human Rights Commission.
Mm-hmm.
Now, especially now that they've amended their act, they're able to go to court, which is also very good. That's a place that can also help. And then there are also NGOs that I've seen with proper documentations and very well so registered. People can report there and they can help them take it up from there.
Mm-hmm. So maybe while you're still on that one, since you've already touched on the Human Rights Commission, what is the role of the Human Rights Commission?
So the Human Rights Commission, well, the thing that they do, firstly, they'll educate, they'll disseminate information about human rights, educate the general citizen about human rights. They also do research also, because remember, human rights also need base there.
Mm-hmm.
So there is need to do research. They should also be able to document. Those are some of the thing: research, documentations, and then they also do legal and investigations. They should be able to investigate alleged human rights crimes, and then after that they should be, and also when those are some of their duties.
Mm-hmm. Now, Council Francis, can an individual sue the state or the police for human rights violations? Because I think earlier it was alluded to that it happens sometimes that someone in police custody could be tortured or unlawfully detained, if that's the correct word. So if someone feels that their rights have been violated by the police or by the state, can they sue? And if so, how do they go about that process?
All right. So generally, the answer is yes. They can sue, and you see why you're suing a police officer is because the police officer most likely was doing that act during his course of employment. So we don't sue the police officer in general. So when you look at the State Proceedings Act, I think it should be Section 12. You have to sue the Attorney General, who is supposed to be answerable on behalf of this police officer. But of course, I've seen certain situations where even the police officer, he's basically put there for purposes of certain other things. But the best way is you sue the Attorney General.
Now, earlier in your response, you had mentioned that even if someone is incarcerated, they do not lose their rights. At most, maybe they lose their right to the freedom of movement. So in terms of prisoners and maybe even refugees or people with disabilities, how are they protected in Zambia in terms of human rights?
So persons with disabilities, of course, we have Zambia Agency for Persons with Disability. I think that is their beginner. When you're a member there, you're registered, and generally you have any issue, you can start from there. However, if you don't want, I think it's an element of who are you? Are you a person who knows the law? Are you a person who at least can go to legal aid and say, I need a lawyer? Or you can go to a private firm and say, okay, my rights have been violated and I need this. If you don't have money to get a lawyer and you know what you're doing, I mean, the law allows you to go straight to the court and just sue in your own behalf and bring an action against whoever is violating your rights.
Okay, Council Tatwaizia, do traditional practices as well as cultural norms sometimes interfere with human rights?
Yes, they do sometimes, especially in instances where they infringe certain traditions. Will not allow a woman to speak. But even our constitution actually says we all have a right to freedom of speech. So to that regard, that tradition will have infringed my rights as a woman because I'm not allowed to speak. So such traditions and any practice that is inconsistent with the human right, of course, does infringe. Did you have any in mind?
Maybe just generally speaking, because most of these customs are stringent on women and they're descriptive of the behaviors of women, whether it's in a home setup or just in society in general, especially the one that you've mentioned where in certain settings, a woman is not allowed to speak, but maybe also in a marriage setting, maybe a husband would tell the wife, I don't want you going to to that church, and you had earlier alluded to the fact that every human has a right to assembly. So what is your comment on that one?
Okay, so you're talking about husband and wife. So those are different degrees. Now, family law also comes into play, because I'd love to imagine when I get married to this guy, meaning we have some sort of mutual agreement. And if we're going to have to run a home together, we should have common ground. Much as I would want to go to that church, but if it is a matter of public, if it's a matter of family interest, what is in the best interest of that family that we are running?
Because now, when we talk about cultural practices clashing with human rights, maybe we could also bring in the aspect of children and the aspect of child marriages. Is that an infringement of human rights?
An infringement of human rights for a child? Because you say
be given away in marriage without their consent.
Yeah, now we'll look at the child, the CRSA. Every child, firstly, we look at the definition of a child. Like in Zambia, we have a definition that has been put in the constitution now in terms of age. When we look at that, let children be children. What are children supposed to be doing? Because even human rights, everything has to be age appropriate. When you look at why would a child get married? Is it in the best interest of a child? What you should look at every time we're looking at a child is the best interest of a child. The child should be protected, promoted, and provided for. Now we are making the child who should be protected, the one who needs protection, the protector. The one who needs provision to be the provider. The one who needs promotion to be the promoter. No, how? So whenever you're dealing with a child, we should look at, is it in the best interest of the child to get married? When a child gets married and they live as husband and wife and have children, what becomes of those other children? Will that be in the best interest of that child? Now we'll have a child having a child. Would that be in the best interest of that child who has a child, and even the child that is going to come? What would we expect a child to teach a child? Because they're also still developing.
Yeah.
And it's important that we let children go through the full cycle of being a child to graduate to be an adult.
Okay.
And then maybe to just quickly add on to my colleagues. So when you look at customary practices and human rights, well, human rights are embedded in written law. So if there's generally a conflict, human rights should
take precedence.
Right. Take precedence. So that is why we have, I think, with regards to early marriages, we have the amendment to the Marriage Act of 2023, where now they're saying a child, of course, should not undergo any customary marriage as long as they're 18 and below.
Okay.
Yes.
So you are still watching The People's Law, and today we are talking about human rights. So we're going to take a short break, and after our break, we'll go to the public and find out what their opinions and knowledge is regarding human rights. We'll be back shortly. Okay, wamamba gift mwalieshwa ama human rights?
Mwalieshwa.
Mwaishwa pa ma rights nshkwata ma rights yo mwakwata em.
Ngati ma rights ya kusambirira ya na freedom.
Mubanga muyaziba ma human rights?
At least tizibako yes.
Muziba po ma rights ya bwanji?
Monga for example, muntu alina ma rights akutati napanga mlandu naenda pa police less than 24 hours nufunika naenda ku court naonekera court not for 7 days, over 7 days uli ma cells, which is wakujakirira ma rights yako. Then na ma rights yakuti olo vanipeza wa police, especially kama manenge pali wa police pewa machita uzaenda pa polisi wakutenga tie pa polisi na chani, then instead de wakuze reason wakutengera ochiri chonzi wafikira chati just get in my cells without any confirmation. So ya jana nina ma rights kafika pa polisi vaniuze reason vaniretera, then nina ma rights yofunsa manene ma questions then.
Miss Catherine, we just wanted to find out what you know about human rights and about what your rights are.
Human rights are rights that belong to any human being.
the things that they have a right to. And when we talk about human rights, we are talking about someone's benefits, where someone shouldn't trample on their benefits, what belongs to them, what they have full control of. Welcome back, and you are still watching The People's Law. Now, it's very interesting to hear opinions of the public on human rights and what they feel their rights are and what they feel their entitlements are with regards to that. Now, coming to you, Council Francis, this is something that's in public domain now and world over, and this is over the LGBTQ plus community. Are there any human rights that support or promote that in Zambia currently?
The answer is I'm not aware of any right that protects the promotion or the exercise of that community group, but that does not mean that that group does not have the normal rights that each and every person has.
So they have the rights that apply to all other humans, but not necessarily the rights to promote or practice homosexuality and LGBTQ plus.
Exactly. So they have any other rights that we all enjoy. But you also need to be aware that when you look at the Penal Code section 155 and 156, you realize that actually the Zambian laws criminalizes that kind of practices. So having carnal knowledge of an animal, having acts of unnatural against the order of nature, those are generally criminalized. So there's no law that I'm aware of that provides specifically that type of right in this group.
Okay. Council Twataizia, what is the link between human rights and democracy, in your opinion?
Democracy and human rights are very, very almost inseparable. Because you see, for me to enjoy democracy, there should be free speech. I should be able to express myself freely. All rights should be respected. I should be able to assemble with people. Let's say I belong to political party T because my name starts with T. I should be able to go and wear my shirt, my political party shirt freely. I should be able to recruit others to join my political party. So my rights have to be very well respected for me to enjoy democracy fully. Because you can't claim to be a democratic state and do not respect human rights. Because if you do not respect human rights, how will I be able to enjoy that democracy? Meaning, we'll see a situation where I can't oppose anything because I'm not able to speak. Then where is the democracy if I'm not able to speak? If I'm not able to assemble, where is the democracy? If I'm subjected to inhuman and degrading treatment, I'm tortured. My rights are violated. How will I enjoy that democracy? So the two are inseparable. They are like, you can't separate the two. They just, if you're going to enjoy democracy, there must be rights. There can't be democracy without human rights.
Okay, now back to you, Council Francis. Your closing remarks and your advice to the public regarding human rights.
There is always a famous statement where people say, where your rights end, that is where mine starts. So for a person to have these human rights, which all of us have, we must know that there must be a responsibility or an obligation that we always have. So we can do all these things, but remember, once we do these things like speech or movement and we infringe on others, just know there's a violation and you're committing a tort. Actually, someone can be able to come and sue you. Generally, to the public, we need the community to work together. We need the church to work together. We need schools to work together. And generally, in the promotion of human rights, I think we need to, first of all, foster education. And after fostering this education, we need to help the channels in terms of how do you report in terms of a human rights violation. And like we have already discussed, you can report to the police, you can report to Human Rights Commission, you can seek legal advice and generally sue at the end of the day. But in the community, let us respect each other's rights and let us promote each other's rights, because we have that responsibility as human beings.
Council Twataiza, your closing remarks and advice to the public?
Yes, okay. Understand your rights and understand where to report them. In case you feel your rights are being infringed and you may have limited capacity in terms of being able to commence legal action, and you feel that this matter should be taken to court, you can go to Legal Resource Foundation, you can go to Legal Aid Board, you can go to the police. If you know lawyers, even lawyers or NGOs that deal in human rights, would well advise you to ensure that those rights are protected. So don't only know your rights, understand them, and when you understand them, you know that indeed your right has been violated, and where you feel that the matter may not only need to be reported somewhere and you don't just need counseling, you really need to commence action. LAS has pro bono policy for those who may not be able to hire a lawyer through the many competent law firms that we have. You can go to LAS, you can go to Legal Aid, you can go to Legal Resource Foundation, you can go to National Legal Aid Clinic for Women, and many NGOs that I have seen are protecting and promoting human rights. Then you would be helped from there.
Okay.
Maybe to just conclude that part, when you talk about the Law Association of Zambia, there is also a program called the LAS Prison Decongestion Program or scheme, where in the event your relative has been imprisoned, your relative has a criminal matter and they have not been given bail or they have not given bond, I think that committee basically deals with helping to decongest the prison by pro bono services, getting these people out, at least coming from home to court. So I think the Law Association of Zambia is doing much, and people are welcome to actually come to our association, which I'm proud of, to come and seek legal advice.
Thank you very much, Council Francis. Council Twataizia, thank you very much. This has been The People's Law, and today we've been discussing human rights. Now, as is our custom on this show, we want to make sure that you understand the laws of this land and how they apply to you and your daily interactions with them. So if you have any questions, please don't forget to interact with us on our social media platforms. You can send us your questions, any pressing legal matters that you need understanding on. We're privileged to be working with the Law Association of Zambia that is providing us with the lawyers that are helping us understand these laws. So don't shy away. Send us your comments, send us your questions, and we'll see you soon.